I shall be back.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
How did Erica get out? There we go. Can you hear me, Erica?
How did
Yeah.
Erica get out?
You told me to reload.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There's
How did you let her out, Aaron? I thought you had her locked down. I mean, come on, man. Jeez.
there is no out. Once you're in, you're in.
That's funny.
Do you know that there was this kid that Bree was, she's friends with him. She wasn't dating because she doesn't date, but she was friends with him. And he found out that I had a show and he was like, you should have your dad let me on the show. And she was like, no, he's not going to let you on the show. He was like, why? She's like, well, because you have to have something to offer. You have to have something that, you know, would be intriguing for him to be on there. And he was like, well, you've been on there. Like, well, duh.
Yeah.
But-
well, wait, he might be like, wait, he's got that one girl on there.
Yeah.
What the?
But he was like,
like, she's there for the comedic value. We don't need more. She's the joke.
yeah. And I was like,
Wait. I thought that was my role.
Well, not if you're going to become a master pastor.
Well, that was one of the first funny things you've said, Bryan. So
I know, right?
It's difficult to. Oh man,
it's hard to argue with the facts.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out how to share this stuff without it popping up immediately. So I had to do this here. So that's why I'm blocking this all. Hello, everybody over on Rumble. We've got Erica and Bryan are over on Rumble right now. Oh crap! I got to start the show.
Actually, Gifted Guru. Where's Gifted Guru at?
Welcome to the breakdown, everybody. This is Aaron Barker broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines, asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible study and sent to therapy. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be in your vehicle, office, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen-house, outhouse, or doghouse, wherever it is you may be listening to the broadcast today. I am your host, the evangelical infidel himself, Aaron Barker. We've also have the lovely misinformation, Erica Sauer.
Good morning.
And we also have Bryan, the bearded pastor, with us as well. Bryan,
top of the morning, folks.
I guess it's going to be Bryan, the master pastor. He's congratulations to Bryan. He's been admitted for his master's degree, and he gets to be indoctrinated by all the folks that teach it at the cemetery, and then he'll come out on the other side being just like all the other evangelical hack.
Thanks, man. I appreciate those. Now I'm depressed.
There we go. All right. Oh, big show for you today. A lot of stuff. Selective outrage galore. Many things to add to the Olympic controversies. And we say that plural now. Last week it was one controversy. Now it is multiple controversies. We also have a father that's sentenced to manslaughter, which is an absolutely horrible thing. And then, of course, sharks testing for some weird stuff off the coast of Brazil. We'll get to all that in just a little bit. But since we're going to be talking about wildlife, and no, we're not going to be talking about Donald Trump right now, but we will, because Donald Trump actually isn't black. He was only black when he was here is
wow.
This is a pretty amazing photo, or pretty amazing video here. This is a whale body slamming a small boat here, which is actually pretty incredible and also extremely terrifying if you were in this situation. So check it out. This is actually, just so you know, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're gonna jump into the chum bucket. We're gonna dig deep into the chum bucket. And we're going to talk about the most internet's fascinating accounts of this life and world in which we live in. And we go to the middle of the ocean, the middle of nowhere. And here we go. A whale deciding it wants to try to be a passenger on this boat.
Wow.
So this whale jumps up, slams this boat in the back. It's a humpback whale. And you can see the person fall right out off the side of the boat. And then there's another one swimming away right there. And then this kid who sees this immediately goes around. Go help these folks. But could you imagine the terror of you being on this? And you're like, oh, look at that. It's a big, beautiful humpback whale. That's actually what Allison sees in the morning when I roll over to tell her good morning. Wow. She's terrified. I'm jumping off the bed.
He bounces her off the bed. She just flies like the wave. I mean, okay, that's frightening. And those guys were out there fishing, right? They weren't whale watching, but whales travel in pods. I'd be nervous about that too. And now you're in the water. I mean, and that video ends right there as well, right? It's not like we're leaving off the guy getting saved. We don't actually know what happened to that man. I think the video ends there.
The Lord wanted him to go somewhere else. So he was like, I'm going to make you go somewhere else. And he capsized him, swallowed him up in the big, great fish. And he's going to puke him out on the shores of Vermont.
Well, it's happened before. So I'm just saying. I'm not exactly sure that God used a humpback whale, though. I could be wrong, but hey, whatever.
It was a sperm whale, wasn't it? Like, isn't that what Moby Dick is? A sperm whale?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what that's about. The great white whale, Moby Dick.
I'm fairly certain the Bible doesn't say what kind of whale it was. In fact, it doesn't really.
Gosh.
Well, actually, the Bible doesn't say humpback. It said it was a great fish.
This is how you're going to be in college, Bride. This is how you're going to be in college.
Oh my God. Yep. See, I can't. This is exactly what I was talking about this morning. If you start going to your master pastor classes and you come out talking all this, well, as a matter of fact, if you look at this page and this line and this verse, I'm going to be.
Oh, because that sounds just like me. You guys
Amen.
Move on with life, okay?
Here's how Bryan is going to be. My the famous vine here. Let me share this. Come on, share. Here we go. There we go. If I could get to it, I'm not.
What the heck is that?
Check it out. Hold on.
That is not correct. Because according to the encyclopedia of...
That's going to be Bryan. According to the encyclopedia. Oh, poor Bryan, man. We're just like pouncing on you. You did it to yourself, though, man. You did it to yourself. You're like,
how did I do it to myself? All I made a comment is that it doesn't say it was a whale even. Thank you very much.
Actually, Aaron, your joke is not very funny because the Bible doesn't say that it was a great fish. It was a whale or a sperm whale.
You know what I want to know? Once you're a master pastor, do you get to go on lecture series and charge for your like? Can you make money outside of your pastoring?
I can do that now. It's like I make money as a pastor. Come on, please.
Wait, hold on. So people can pay you to come and what?
I can do motivational speaking. I can do spiritual speaking. I can do whatever I want to do.
Bryan, you're killing me, man.
I'm just dying here. Wait, spiritual speaking in English though, right?
Oh my gosh.
She coming a Honda, she going a Hyundai.
Oh my gosh.
See
And ladies and gentlemen, this is when we went completely off the rails.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. Congratulations, Bryan.
Wow.
Also, can we congratulate Aaron on his starting his new job?
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much. I can sing with, by the way, everybody can see this. I'm wearing my Margaritaville shirt, wasting away in Margaritaville. That's going to offend some Christians out there. Only the Christians that come out in the woodwork to say, but the song says wasted away in Margaritaville.
I
But
mean,
actually,
can we just be tired of Christians being offended?
No, we
It's
cannot. Thank you very much, but that's okay.
Christian, it's a choice. You're choosing to be offended. Get over it. If you
There's a-
quit paying attention to
Yeah,
everything,
no.
you wouldn't feel so attacked. Listen, you're not going to be able to save everybody. You're just going to have to let some of them go. And the ones that can't understand what is happening around them right now, I mean, you're the one who said not
I'm
everybody's
going to
on the
say this
list
about
anyway.
that. There are things that are sacred to a Christian, and I would agree with you that there are some serious, outrageous comments and things being made about things that don't matter. Okay, I got it. I'm okay with that. Just like the whole "it wasn't a whale" thing, right? That was more of a joke than anything. However, if someone starts saying that the Bible says it was a sperm whale, you're wrong. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you that you need to go back and read the book again. Okay.
are we
You
back?
know
on
what? I
this?
think
Like, what's the deal with that?
okay,
what
and
now?
maybe I can understand it from okay, if that was my calling, if that was my profession, if that was a gigantic part of my life, like it is for you, right? Even though I mean, it probably should be. I'm not saying it's wrong, but then yes, I understand why your motivation is to speak out on it. It's what you do, it's your calling, it's your main focus in your life, right? But for the majority of Christians out there who are trying to actually be better Christians, the time that you're spending on what may or may not be now there are some real horrific things happening at the Olympic as far as who's being allowed to compete, what messages are they sending? Yeah, all of that's true. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't let your kids watch it.
I
Use it
have yet
as
I
an
have yet to
opportunity
watch
to
the
teach
first.
about why they don't need to watch it, what the Olympics used to be, what it is now. But all this bitch, 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 it's doing nothing. And I would love to know what's happening in the background while we're all bitching about some freaks who have no chance of going anywhere but straight to hell are doing on TV at the Olympics, which is basically a money-making sham at this point. Has nothing to do with nationalism, has nothing for the athletes, it probably does have something to do with pride in sport, pride in self. They wanna compete for the country, but the countries are all upside down right now, every single one of them. You know what? I'm sorry. Rant over. I apologize.
So that is, I mean, I guess we're going to just go ahead and jump right into that. I was going for something, a little lighthearted at the beginning just to kind of, get things started up here, but we'll go ahead and jump into this whole situation here. So as most people know, let's see if I got to dig through here real quick and get the footage, unless one of you all have the actual footage of the boxing match. So this is
I have yet to watch the first 5 minutes of any part of the Olympics. It's not something I'm interested in. So other than the controversies, which are
really,
all over the place, you know what I
But
mean?
if you're not watching it and you're getting into the controversy, that's wrong too. If
oh,
you wanna get involved in the opinion, then you need to get involved in you better watch it, so you know
Why?
what you're talking about. So you know what you're talking about. You can't go talking out of your rear end.
So I have to watch the boxing match to know that this man beat the crap out of a woman?
Well, first,
No. Okay.
no,
No.
go ahead, Eric. You can answer that. I'm going to look for the video real quick.
You know that you know that's not. I mean, yeah. If you want to argue theoretically, you at least should watch. You should watch it. If you're going to talk about how uncomfortable and how wrong it is, no, I guess I don't actually mean that because you need to watch everything in order to know that you don't like it and you don't support it and it's wrong. I
Well,
understand that.
and that's like saying, because we've had this argument before on the air, but it's like saying that if you don't vote, you can't cry about how the country's doing. I'm sorry,
I
I
w
just
I know. We
discriminate.
disagree about that. It's like, when I hear someone getting into an argument with me about college football, and then they tell me they didn't even go to college. I'm like, "Okay, well then shut up." Right? Like, you
Again,
didn't
I
even
think that's
go
the same argument that a guy can't have a conversation about abortion because he doesn't have a vagina. I'm sorry, I
but
disagree.
exactly. I think that's ridiculous. I think the guy, of
I'm
course,
allowed to have an
has a right
opinion
to
about
talk about it.
anything.
I'm
That's one of my
basically saying
God-given rights as an American is I can have an opinion about anything.
I'm
And
talking
and
out of
and
both sides of my mouth on
I
this
know,
one, for sure.
well,
For
and
sure, I am.
I
But
think we all
I
do.
think what Erica is trying to say is there people selectively choose, like the title of the show is, the gold medal in selective outrage, because what you do is, even though you don't watch it, people the Olympic boxing is inconsequential to you in Paducah, Kentucky, as a pastor. It is inconsequential to me in Northern Kentucky. It's inconsequential to Erica. It is inconsequential to the majority of Americans, which is people around the world, really, the majority of us, because it doesn't matter who wins the boxing match. It matters for them, but it doesn't really matter for us. And
Okay.
all of the grand big things that happen at the Olympics, whatever, when I say grand, I just mean scale. All of these massive things that happen at the Olympics, and people will hone down on one thing. And then you hear, well, I never watched the Olympics. I don't even watch a minute of it. I don't even care about it. Well, if you don't care about it, why
then
are
why
you
yeah,
not
then
continuing
why are you so involved in the argument?
this narrative?
Right.
Exactly. Last week with the whole thing that happened with the opening ceremony, the majority of people, I am convinced the majority of people out there know about what happened, because I have seen that stupid side-by-side comparison and the many posts from people, Christian and non, opining about it. You realize if we would have just kept our mouths shut and moved on, nobody would have known about the obscurity of that except for the people that were there and the small number of folks who actually watched it. I genuinely believe that, because the majority of folks don't care. Christians gave free marketing to the Olympics and everything that they did there by
Right.
posting it all over the place. And if somebody's like, look at it, it's like the old joke where the guy walks into to the saloon and he's holding a pile of horse crap in his hands. And he looks at all of his bar buddies and he goes, look what I almost stepped in. Well, now you got it on your hands, you idiot. Like, people are
Right.
like, look at the blasphemous stuff that they did at the Olympics. And then they post the picture. If it is so blasphemous and it is so offensive, why are you sharing it? Why are you talking?
And I'll go a step further. Regardless of the issue. Okay, this one involves it involves faith and blasphemy and Christianity, right? I don't care what the issue is. I don't care what you're outraged about. It's ridiculous to be giving it that attention. Like, if you felt like the something happened at the Olympics and enough of the people around you, Bryan, in your position as a pastor, you actually have to minister to people that where this might be exactly an issue that they are directly affected by. You do it there. You minister to them. That's your influence.
Okay.
The time that people who and I'm not but I try not to go out on a limb on issues that involve things I don't completely understand, right? So you don't see
Okay,
me
so
out there.
let me ask the question in line with your comment. Where does my sphere of influence end?
No,
Does it
you're
end in
allowed. You're
hang on,
allowed to
does it
be
end in
as
the
public
pulpit?
as possible. You're allowed to be as public as no, it doesn't end in the pulpit. It does not end in the pulpit.
Okay,
And you're
so
allowed to be as public as possible, but I'm saying your actual what the true effect, because do you think that with what I don't know, what do we, I'm not even meaning this in a negative way, but it's not like one of us is in touch with so many people that we can influence the world view on what happened at the Olympics, right?
no, I
So
agree with that
we're
100%.
kind
That's
of
my point.
screaming into the wind, and
But it doesn't stop us from having a platform with the people that we do have a platform with to talk about the fact that they are openly attacking Christianity. They
but
are
it's
openly attack No, hang on. They are openly attacking Christianity. They're openly attacking the gender roles in this country or in the world in general. They are doing all kinds of things as an organization. The Olympians are doing all kinds of things. Just like I said last night on our private chat, it used to mean something, okay? It used to mean something to be an Olympian, right? This
right.
country used to send only the best of the best, and it was about moral character as well as, athletic skill. It
Okay,
was
full
somebody
stop,
that they
though.
looked up to. Now,
Yes.
that doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, well, first of all, people died when they competed in the Olympics, if you wanna really go back to where it started. Some people didn't walk out of that alive, number 1. Then it got a little
Wait,
more
wait, wait,
humane.
are we talking about in the Greek era, or are we talking about
Yes.
modern day Olympics?
No, great. I'm talking about
In
let's
modern day,
just
last year,
yeah,
they were,
but
yeah,
it's
pretty
my
sure.
it's selective outrage, and I realize, Aaron, I'm probably now jumping ahead, and you're gonna
No, you're
crucify
fine.
me for after this first half hour, but you cannot be mad that some idiot drag queens dressed up and flaunted their junk on television and in a disgusting display of things that are and should be truly offensive to any Christian. Got it, right? But you can't be upset about that and not be upset about the fact that there's a convicted child rapist being allowed to compete in the Olympics,
I
who is
agree with you
getting special
100%.
treatment, not having to show up for press questions, being allowed to stay in a different place, in a place where the youngest athlete competing is 11. If you're
I
not
agree. That's a
screaming
story that I didn't
about
know about.
that,
So,
then you don't
I
have to
agree with
scream
that.
about the gays. I just it's too selective to me. That's what I'm saying. Like, while we're screaming about people who don't know how to keep their private parts hidden, no one's saying anything about the fact that we're allowing people to compete at an international level that's you're saying is supposed to be based on integrity, true competitive spirit. By the way, it also used to involve amateur athletes, which now it does not. There's money involved, there's sponsorship involved.
Right.
It's fake. It's all fake. And while we're screaming about this bull crap, there's real problems with it just being allowed to continue. And I don't know if you've ever heard about what actually goes on in the Olympic Village, but it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. So I don't know why we're touting any of it being above the pale. I don't know. I don't know.
No, again, I agree with you. I think that there should be outrage over the child rapist. I think there should be outrage over the gender fluidity. I think there
Right.
should be outrage over the fact that the opening ceremonies were highlighting and celebrating debauchery, whether it was over the Last Supper or whether it was just a bunch of drag queens and crazy looking characters that were on the screen that were there, flaunting their open sexuality, right?
Right.
Regardless of what they were attacking, the fact that the Olympics has not been the Olympics for a long time. The Olympics have been a show. I remember back in the 90s when they first made the big, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when the dream team for the American team for basketball included people like Michael Jordan and some of these
Mhm.
other pro athletes, they made a big deal about the fact, well, why are you sending pros? Why are you sending pro? Because they're the best, bro.
Well,
We're gonna
and
send the
because
best.
other countries had been doing that in certain sports involved in the Olympics
Exactly.
from the beginning of time, and we started to lose. We started to lose,
I
so
got
we
it.
decided to send our best because of pride and BS. if you wanted to stay authentic to the cause, we should have continued to send our best amateur athletes. And if they didn't win, they didn't win. I don't know. It's also seedy and gross to me. It's gross. I don't like it in any way
Again, my
anymore.
outrage is not limited to just the drag queen story hour and the show that went on to open the Olympics, right? Although I think that was a direct attack on all Christian faith. Whether they want to argue about being Dionysus or whoever, whatever, I don't care. Whatever. You want to argue about the guy that's not a guy that could be a girl that we don't know because of all the okay. Genetics says that he's XY chromosome. That means he's male. Okay, regardless of how he presents, regardless of he's been removed from other female sports, and they let him get into a ring with a female, a natural female, right? And he beat the tar out of her. Okay,
He didn't really beat the tar out of her. He landed 2 punches.
And she hit the ground. So I mean, it wasn't
the ground. She stopped the fight. She took
okay.
a punch in the face. And well, I mean, like, you want to be specific about the fish. You could pick on me about
Let's
being
be specific. I'm okay with it. I'm just saying that
the tar out of her.
Do you guys know how unique that situation is too? I mean, if you want to be specific, right? Like that's
it's extremely unique.
It's that's such a weird. I mean, that man who fought that woman has female body parts, female sexual organs. I'm trying to be so careful here.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate that.
Has female organs, but XY chromosomes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like this woman, and I don't know how it happens. I could only think of a couple ways that could actually happen. One, I don't want to say it, was truly hermaphrodite at birth, born with both sex organs. Sometimes the doctors allow you, the parents, to choose, which I actually thought that they didn't do that anymore. I thought anyway. So maybe they made the wrong choice, but you would think that the XY would have been present at birth, and it's not like this woman had anything removed and anything new built.
Agreed.
So that's such a weird, but when you look at it, that obviously, I mean, just the side shot, Bryan, in your defense, even if you didn't watch it, there's a side shot of the bicep, and there is no, I mean, maybe a bodybuilding female might have a bicep that looked like that, but she's not fighting. She's just standing on stage flexing. You might, maybe you would see that, right? I can't imagine how you would have made that decision and not been had it would have been appealed. What was the Olympic Committee supposed to do in that situation? I don't know how you do it.
The issue is
actually, we'll find out. The issue is it's break time. We got to go to break. We'll be right back in just a minute. So keep it locked in right here on the breakdown. You can also go to crusadechannel.com and listen there. Live radio that should be as it should be, and also on Rumble and Facebook. So all over the place. We'll be back in just a minute.
Asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible studies and sent to therapy.
You're listening to The Breakdown.
Welcome back to the Breakdown, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. Continuing on here again, we're live on the Crusade channel, live radio the way it should be. We are also broadcasting on Rumble and over on Facebook. And you can also check out the show and clips from the show by going over to aaronbarker.substack.com. And you can subscribe to it there. Now, pretty much what Substack is, for those who don't know it, it's essentially just a place for a website that it's a website you go to for the show. It has all the past shows that are put on there, recent articles if we write anything. And then you can also see clips of the show as well as watch the full show. Last week's, we had quite a bit of that going on in there. So you can go over there to aaronbarker.substack.com. And when you do that, you're signing up for the breakdown. And then you may also go to the top where it says Breakdown Outfitters and click on that. It will take you to our shop, which has the tinfoil hat that Bryan is so modeling right now in a lovely fashion. Timmy wants to put a propeller on. And then you've also got the fantastic shirts. And this here, I just want to point this out. This was this was something originally designed by Erica, our breakdown tumblers. And the design work, the laser engraving on there was done by there you go, everybody. Get yours up there now. Well, we'll just do cheers, everybody. Cheers. This was done by Ramika Designs. So those folks who know Ron Phillips, this was laser engraved on there by him. You can get these, especially if you go to Ramika Designs. Let them know that we did that we sent you there, and you can get one, and it's fantastic. Mine burned up. Erica bought one for all three of us. That one burned up, and then Bryan replaced it. So I got this week. Allison cried before she went live on her when she was doing her sale this past week, and she cried right before she went on, and she was all getting annoyed because she was crying and her makeup was already done. So really, Bryan, this is awesome. So but before we went to break, we were talking about this whole Olympic thing, and let me go ahead and play this real quick. This is now the fight started. And I do want to say this before we go any further, and I appreciate the direction you were going in, Erica. If we had more time, you probably would have ended up where I've been thinking about this, at least what I'm going to say. Could you imagine? You train your whole life, all right. I mean, she had they. I'll just say they had no idea at birth what they were. Right. This was something that was decided or done by doctors and by the parents. Typically, when you have this type of situation, this really, really tiny percentage of people where this is an issue, it's decided by doctors, it's decided by parents. I don't know the whole process, but there is a lot of decisions that have to be made. And this Olympian had no say-so in that. Work your entire life as a female, there's something different about your body. There's something different about your build, about the way that you're a little like you excel more than other females. That there's something different when you go to the bathroom, etc. Your body is different. You can't quite put your finger on it. Maybe you can, but in these situations, it's difficult. You train to be an Olympian, you become an Olympian, and now on display in front of the entire world, we'll say, a portion of the world, whatever. Now on display, you're being criticized because of your medical condition that you have. You're being criticized because of your genitalia. Rather than your talent being the headline, your genitals are the headline. Rather than your skill being talked about, your chromosomes are being talked about. And it's got to be difficult to have that define you.
I'm going to say this, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, so prepare for backlash. I don't think if I follow the line of that God doesn't make mistakes, right? Number one. Number two, having a it's not an anomaly, it's a genetic defect. We need to call it what it is. I'm short. I know that genetic defect. I'm unusually short. I know that genetic defect does not affect me in a way that actually relates to my health or something like that. So I'm not affected by that way, but it's a defect. What this person was born with is a genetic defect. Some people are born with genetic defects that affect them in a way that what they are not able to do is right out there. If you have Down syndrome, if you have that type of genetic defect where it's out there, it's viewable, right? Where people understand it, and that in that way, when you're limited, people don't have a problem with it. When you have certain conditions or you are a certain way, the fact is just that you can't do certain things. I am never going to play basketball, ever. You just can't. There's no expectation that just because you're a nice person, you get to have certain restrictions or certain things. I mean, you shouldn't have you can't just do it because you want to.
Right.
At some point, you just have to say no. And I don't blame this person. They were obviously allowed to compete at this level in this way in many, many competitions, many tournaments, trained whole life. So did the girl that just got her ass beat in 2 punches.
And that's the thing. Like there are other let's see, JB over in the Crusade Stadium chat. She posted a tweet from K Doll Sweetie, and it says the gold in women's boxing will go to a man. That's what we're talking about right now. We don't know. It's very confusing in this situation. However, she continues. The best female cyclist is a man. The best female swimmer is a man. The best female runner is a man. The best women's basketball player is a man. Dylan Mulvaney, a man, won Woman of the Year. Why does the left hate women so much? Now, the argument that it's obvious. There should be no argument that a man should not be competing against a woman, right? And
Right.
even in men's and women's sports, you have weight classifications. You know, in boxing, you have lightweight, you have heavyweight. You know,
Right.
you don't have people of unequal size and unequal strength going against someone else. At least you have them you try to pair them up as much as possible. Like Erica, you and I would not be paired together in one-on-one basketball
No.
because but in midget tossing, you would excel. You would go far. So
Okay.
like
Midget tossing is very difficult, by the way. They're actually hard to throw, and
They're not as aerodynamic as you would think they are.
right. The whole and they're not always that willing to be thrown. But
Ouch.
I get what you're saying. Okay, so but I don't expect to be allowed to play basketball. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I don't I'm not out there a lot or demanding to be allowed to compete as the spiker on the volleyball team. That's insane.
Okay, but the other
And
thing
just
that
because you were born with it doesn't mean that you get the right for it to not be insane. It's still insane for you to fight a woman. You have to know that. You're telling me that you know that you were born with this. You know that a choice was made. You had to have had blood taken at some point. You just now found out you're XY? Come
no.
on now.
So time out. In 2023,
time out, Brian. Time out. I was just saying it because you did.
okay. In 2023, the International Boxing Reference disqualified him from female boxing when they found that he had male XY chromosome pattern and the testosterone level put him outside of the normal range of female. The issue is they did know.
Yeah, they did.
This is not a surprise. This is not, oh my, we didn't know. He did know.
I'm giving him I'm trying to give it the benefit of respect though. Like
you don't
like
respect
Aaron's point
somebody
is valid.
But
What would you do?
To me, you don't earn respect when you deliberately do what this person has done. Okay? They have presented as a certain way until it was advantageous to present a different way.
Okay. All right.
I've got well, hang on. I've got photos, Aaron. This
Okay.
somebody just sent these to
Well,
me.
I mean, I think honestly we've beat this into the ground. I think so many other people have talked about it. I mean, we've beat it worse than this person beat the kind chick. I mean, honestly, it's where this situation. I personally, I don't know. I'm not a biologist, and just like last week, when all of the left automatically or immediately in 30 seconds became Greek mythological experts, now Christians are biology experts. I mean, honestly, there's so many things happening in the world right now that we have no idea about. We
That's
don't
my
know
point.
the intentions or the motivations of the Olympics. We don't know if they did this on purpose. We don't know if this person intentionally deceived and presented this way 20 however many years ago so that they could go to the Olympics and win an easier sport. We don't know that. We can't determine motivations or intentions. We claim that we're allowed to be outraged, but I see Christ talking more about love than I see Christ talking about outrage. And I do think it's quite annoying that after so many years, Christians are known for what we hate and what we dislike than who we love and who we follow. I mean, Christians hate the chosen. Christians hate the he gets us movement. Christians hate the opening Olympic ceremony. Christians hate that this person competes in this. Christians hate the Christian hate. I mean, it's just honestly, it's getting so frustratingly difficult that I'm honestly I'm tired of seeing it. And then and then I see it also on the left. The left acts as though Christians are stupid and backwards and backwoods and uneducated when we try to make a point or discuss something, and it becomes this argument between their evidence and our evidence, and then they clash somewhere in the middle, and we don't get anywhere. We're not being evangelistic with this. We're not, by being so angry and so outraged, we're not sharing the love of Christ. I don't think that we are doing that. And that is the biggest problem we have here. And we're going to be jumping from this right into another extremely controversial topic, and which I'll probably just give us a minute to ruminate and relax on that. For those who don't know what Bryan was talking about earlier, there's an Olympian right now that's performing that is competing in, I think they're still competing. I'm not sure if they won or not. But the Netherlands Olympic chief has sent a child rapist to the Olympics, and they claim that this person has been reformed. Yet no one has been talking about this. No one has been raising concerns. I did send this to a pastor that has been critical to other people about me, but not directly to me. I sent this to a pastor, and the pastor sounded more like me than he did his angry outrage posts or his anger about other things. And it was about, well, I hope he really is reformed, like they say. If that's your response over a child rapist, then shut your cake hole about this other situation, because you're being selectively angry at certain things that benefit you politically. All right, so let's look at this here. Back in the day, I was not, I guess this statement, straight edge, more teetotaler, I guess, more, I don't want to say goody two shoes, but kind of along that way. Back in the day, when I was growing up in high school, I didn't smoke pot. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I'm not better than anybody. It's just I didn't do it. I was more scared than anything. The first time I got drunk, I was so afraid I was going to die in my sleep. And I remember the entire thing, but I was so afraid I was going to die in my sleep. And my brother told me to shut up and go to sleep. So they rolled me over on my side. So that was the first time I was drunk. But I smoked pot once, I think, after high school, and then I ate a whole bag of Fritos. And when I sobered up or whatever, I decided that anything that makes a fat guy hungrier is probably not a good decision. So I just didn't do that stuff. And I'm not better than anybody, just simply saying that. But back in the day, the number of high school students who are more straight edge now has increased in the past 30 years. It says that this article says it's often assumed that teenagers are more likely to partake in drugs and alcohol use to fit in. However, new data conducted in the Monitoring the Future program suggests the trend is slowly changing, as it seems that it's those kids who are now refraining from using alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drugs. The data collector noted that back in 1976, 5% of high school students were straight edge. Now, what they mean by straight edge is they didn't smoke, they didn't drink, they didn't do any kind of tobacco products, they didn't do any drugs. So no alcohol, no cigarettes, no marijuana in the prior month. However, in 2021, nearly 40% of high school seniors said they were straight edge. Another survey by Monitoring the Future last year, so this has been 23, reported that the use of illicit drugs amongst teenagers had held steady from a low reported results from 2020 to 2021 before the COVID-19 pandemic. Data showed that 10.9% of 8th graders, 19.8% of 10th graders, and 31.2% of 12th graders had reported drug use. So why is it the younger generations seem to be growing up sober? So it says here that nearly 50% the number of high school students who are straight edge has increased to nearly 50% in the past 30 years. So kids who used to do the drugs and alcohol and such are now no longer doing the drugs and alcohol and such. So I'm curious as to what your all's opinions are. And I might have to refresh my screen here real quick because my camera's locked up. But if I'd like your all's opinions on why you think those numbers have increased so much.
Go ahead, Erica.
He wants to know
Ladies
why we
first.
think the numbers have increased so much.
Yeah. So like, why is it gone from 5% of kids who said they were essentially teetotalers to raising nearly 50% in 30 years of folks that say of high school students that say they were teetotalers?
I mean, I'd like to say that I hope it's because there's a lot more parents out there like me and like Aaron who now have kids who are just coming up, hitting 18, 19, right? Like my kids are 18 to 20 in that 18 to 24 age range where what does Kamala Harris says, what do they all have in common? They're stupid,
Well, I
right?
think they all fell out of the coconut tree.
Something like that, right? But what I'm saying is I think that there's enough people in that age range right now or coming into that. So the kids underneath that in high school right now are looking at Generation Z. They're not being raised by Generation Z. They're looking at that right ahead of them going, "Oh dear." That's crazy. Like it's just not. I think that it's a reaction to the generation before them looking at that saying that's absolutely insane. That's crazy. And they're not being raised by Gen Z, right? They're being raised by us.
Yeah.
And regardless of what you hear as the majority opinion in the media, there's more of us than there are of them. Just because they're given the loudest crying session and you hear that the most doesn't mean that they're actually the majority. So I think you have a generation of kids coming through high school that are going against the ridiculousness of their education, against the ridiculousness of what is being shoved down their throat. They've been made to do certain things earlier, not than everyone, but than other generations, especially Gen Z. It's not like Gen Z was out there going to work when they were in high school. Some of them are graduating from college if they've never actually had a job. That's not our kids. So they're looking at that going, that's insane. We're not, there's no need for all that. Plus half of it's legal. Right? I mean, half of it's not a matter of rebellion anymore. So what's the allure?
Right. Brian?
I think I think a big part of the numbers of it is because of the standards that have changed over the years. I don't think it's a big deal to people to think that, of drinking and the illicit drugs and the things that that we used to define as drugs are not even considered drugs anymore. So I don't know. I'd have to see what the standard's based on, but I think a big part of it is that it's not the same definition. Does that make sense?
No, I don't know. I didn't hear you. I was typing into the chat.
Hold on. So you're saying there's not actually more geeks there's just more people admitting that they're geeks. Is that what you're saying?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Now there are some folks in the.
Am I wrong there, or what do you
Oh,
think?
I don't know.
I don't know if there's anything right or wrong about this. I mean, we're just having a conversation about opinions. There was, let's see, Gifted Guru dropped into the chat. I think what he said earlier that big pharma, this generation is a big pharma drugging them. So he's saying here that he knows of 8-year-olds on Adderall and medical marijuana. 8-year-olds. I mean, now I don't understand. I mean, maybe that's a good reason. Maybe you're onto something there, Gifted Guru. Maybe the fact that that kids are already on some kind of psychotropic drugs or what do they call them? Reuptake inhibitors, the RUIs and the SSRIs. So maybe because they're on that, they don't need to, or maybe there's a rebellion that no longer exists, because typically the counterculture is a response to the mainstream culture, like back in the 50s, the 60s, etc.
Right.
And I'm not a historian. I'm just going based on, this is all anecdotal, of course. But back in the 50s and 60s, it was, you have to be straight edge. You have to go to church. You have to wear a suit when you go out. And you have to look nice. And there was a rebellion of that. There was the hippie movement, the counterculture movement, the free love movement, the anti-war movement. That was all a response to the cultural displays that were being pushed and the cultural norms that were being pushed. So you have the counterculture to that. Well, now it's hip to smoke pot. It's hip to recreationally drink. It's hip to at business is one of the things. I'm not comparing the two, but just to show you kind of a cultural shift. Back in the day, if you had a tattoo, you had to cover it up. If you had a piercing and you worked at McDonald's or Eddie Bauer in the mall, I know this because that's where I worked, and you had a piercing, you had to put a Band-Aid over it if you were a dude. So if you had, and it's like,
what part of that though are the churches for allowing the hippie wear to be allowed, the employers for allowing the tattoos to be uncovered or the earrings to be uncovered? What part of that is I mean, I know it was done to us intentionally. Like the culture was has been attacked in so many ways repeatedly for not just one generation, but probably before mine, at least starting with mine, and I'm older than you guys. So I'm just saying it's been attacked in a way for so long that some of it, okay, we're not directly responsible for. Like, I'm not responsible for everybody loving the fact that the 80s were so great and not paying attention to what had been going on since the 60s and the attack on the family and everything that influenced it, right? So you have that coming in. But at some point, the churches are responsible for saying, oh, well, we'll dumb down the dress. We'll dumb down the sermon. We'll dumb down the requirements to be an accepting to be a member in good standing, just to get butts in the seats. And I'm not even just accusing the churches. The same thing happened with the employers allowing, okay, fine, let's have people who have big gigantic holes in their ears or look like they have a nose ring large enough for me to grab them out in Texas and lead them around into the next field, right? Go Longhorns. No, it somehow became acceptable, and we're partially responsible for that, right? I mean,
is that a bad thing that's acceptable now? Like,
yes.
Why is it bad?
Because why is it allowed? What do you mean? Why is it bad?
Like your earrings and piercings, etc. Why is that stuff now considered bad? I mean,
it's not considered bad. But it's okay if I think that decision-making process that you have, you made that decision. And in my judgment, whether I'm the employer or I'm the church or I'm whatever, right? I have certain standards. That does not necessarily meet my standard of a good decision maker.
I think we need to be really careful in saying the church or the employers.
I'm saying, well, I'm just saying in respect to he said the hippies and the attire in the church was allowed to become lax. I could go a lot further because there's way more in the Catholic Church that's been allowed to become lax over the years.
I agree with that, but I think the other thing is that I don't have. I'm like Aaron. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it. I think the wrong has become when I, as a person, or I, as a local pastor, decide not to accept it. I'm demonized.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I don't
So
care.
it's
It's
it
your decision. You can do it. But
exactly.
your decisions have consequences. And just because you don't think that it's a problem that you have a giant nose ring, and you should be allowed to apply for any job based on your qualifications. If one of your qualifications is that you have to have interaction with the public, and by having that nose ring, you are going to turn off half of my clientele. I'm not gonna judge my clientele. I'm gonna judge you, and you're therefore not gonna be qualified. Not because you have a nose ring, but because you made the decision that that was more important to you than being in a position that requires that you not have a nose ring, and I'm
I
allowed to
know I
say
would
that
agree
you
with you
can't.
100%. That's the thing that I'm saying is I think that the reference is not so much if I as a person want to have the gauges in my ears and want to have the face piercings and things like that. I mean, look,
Do
my
it.
beard, my beard is my decision, right?
Right,
And I've had people tell me they love it. I've had people tell me they hate it. I've had people tell me that I would look better without it. I've had people tell me that it needs to grow longer.
right.
So it's my decision, and if that blocks me from doing certain things in life, it's still my decision.
Still your decision.
Right.
Correct.
So
It is not
I'm
it's
all cool
not
with that.
right. And that's where they go wrong. So, Aaron,
Well, I think
I'm not
going wrong is
criticizing the person who gets the tattoo. I'm not criticizing the person that decides to have a piercing. Even, I mean, it could be a piercing they feel is very spiritual, or a tattoo that they have for a specific reason. But whatever the situation where there are certain standards that need to be upheld, they should be upheld. And that was your decision. And you can be judged based on it.
well, and again, I think it goes back to the fact that it's not so much right or wrong as it is you demanding that I accept what you think is right and wrong. Right? If I go
Right.
into a place and they say, "We don't like your beard, you need to shave your beard," you can come to work for us if you shave your beard. I've got a choice. I've got a choice. Do I shave the beard and get the job? Or do I leave the beard and stay where I'm at? Right?
Right.
So that's my choice. Now I can't be mad at them because they have a standard. They have a
Right.
standard I don't agree with, but that's okay. Do I want to work with somebody I don't agree with their standard?
Right.
You know,
Like, do you think it makes me comfortable that I would have to side with Hooters when they say you have to be this weight and you have to wear these shorts and you have to do this? This is requirement for employment. I don't want to be on their side, but I am, because that's the requirement for
that's the
employment.
requirement for who they
You don't
are.
get to come
Exactly.
back and say, well, I've gained 8 pounds. Even if you're like, I've gained 3 pounds, you're still not in the requirement. That's a requirement for employment. You knew that when you took the job, and you don't get to then say, "This is sexist. I shouldn't be judged on my weight." Yes, you should. I think it's a crime that there's fat flight attendants. Stop it. That means my suitcase has to weigh less. We're not doing
I
this.
was about to say that's only
That's
because it
awesome.
impacts my luggage.
That's
Right.
awesome.
We're
Right.
okay, so we're coming up on the end of the first hour. I think we've covered a lot of stuff this hour.
We have.
I'm looking forward to the next hour because evidently now I Facebook blocked the video. Now there's like a graphic thing over the
I
video.
know, I saw
But
that. What did we say that was graphic or violent?
I think it was the whale tipping the boat. But regardless, we're gonna have more of whatever here on the show coming up. I'm sure we're driving everybody bonkers today.
All
Keep it
right.
locked right here on the breakdown. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Oh, there it goes again. I even pulled that up to make sure it didn't do that, and it didn't work. So,
Oh, good first hour, guys.
sure.
Aaron, you haven't mentioned your Substack this hour. I put it in the chat a couple of times, but just so you know.
I mentioned it.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
That's okay, buddy. Nobody pays attention to me.
Well, I do sometimes. You're gonna love the notes.
Oh yeah.
At 8:26 when we were talking about the boxer, I said he didn't beat her, he just hit her.
He didn't beat her, he just hit her. Oh man. So like Watson, let's see. Horrible first hour, you stopped mentioning me. This is Battle for Freedom featuring the breakdown. Oh, okay, there we go.
Well, it's good to know.
Actually, okay, here we go. This is what I'll do. I'll mention you. I'll type in the chat exactly how I'll mention you, Watson.
Oh Lord, here we go. Ding ding, here comes the gloves.
Oh, look at Gifted Guru in there.
Fighting.
Yeshua. Why are you capitalizing this? This is a thing. Okay, so Watson types in God by putting G_D and then Gifted Guru types Yeshua. I don't understand this whole thing. I'll be back.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Did you see the pictures I put in our chat?
Yes.
Those are relatively recent photos, by the way.
Listen, I'm gonna stop ranting about it, but I'm tired of apologizing for I don't know.
Look, I have made my mind up. I'm not going to apologize for my opinion. It's my opinion. If you don't like it, don't listen.
I'm not even. I mean, sometimes I need to apologize for my opinion, and that's okay. But at some point, you have to just put your foot on the brakes and take a breath and go, okay. Calling out insanity is calling out insanity. I don't care what people think about it. Period.
I agree.
There is a right and a wrong, right? There is a right and a wrong.
Based on what, though?
What did I miss? Where
What do you mean based on what? Based on the Bible. There's a right and a wrong.
That's my point, and
now you've gotten to Bryan. You agree with Bryan, which is good because he says the standard is the Bible.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. What standard are you using?
No, I use the standard of my own mind, logic, reason, science.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's stable.
Scary, isn't it?
I'm sorry. Did we start this? Weren't we talking before the show, Bryan, about the increase in narcissism?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, just making sure.
COVID. It's COVID's fault. I had that. I had COVID and I caused it. All right, hold on just a second. Right,
wow.
We got to start. Hold on. Welcome back to the breakdown, everybody. Thank you so much. I don't think I got to say about this earlier. My Margaritaville shirt that I'm wearing right now, wasting away in Margaritaville. I'm wearing this to the tribute concert tomorrow. Allison and I are going to the Coral Reef Roots tribute, Jimmy Buffett tribute concert. They have 3 cities that were released, and they did Alabama, Georgia, and then Cincinnati. Cincinnati, of course, is tomorrow. That's the one we're going to. So we're heading on over to we're heading on over to River Bend tomorrow, and I'll be wearing my Margaritaville Hey Dudes, my Margaritaville shirt, and please don't fall over, books. My Margaritaville hat, my parrot hat right here. I'll be wearing this. I'll be embarrassing everybody tomorrow. No, but I mainly just Allison. No, we're heading over tomorrow. I'm really excited about it because and I looked up the set list last night. What are you laughing at, Erica? Were you laughing or burping?
I was laughing. I saw that hat, and suddenly I have the utmost respect for the level of near sainthood that Allison must be at in order to be seen in public with you wearing that hat. That's all I'm gonna say.
Wow.
Oh yeah, there's pictures of Bree and I. We actually got that at a Florence Yaw's baseball game a couple of
Bree is a
weeks.
child. That's
Yeah.
just surprised me. So, okay,
Get a coconut bra and the grass skirt and show up there like hula dancing and all that stuff, and then take pictures and put it on my elder application for church.
oh my god.
That'd be great.
Brian, you'll probably be able to discuss Aaron in your master pastor classes.
I'm not. Nope. 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 Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
dear Lord.
Pastor.
Master pastor.
So back just to hit on, you are listening to the breakdown, which is honestly a breakdown in complete decorum this morning. The breakdown, we're being broadcast right now on the Crusade Channel, live radio the way it should be. If you head on over there, you can listen to the Mike Church Show and all the archives. You can also listen to Rick Barrett's show, the Barrett Brief, the Weekend Brief. It comes on after this show live today. And if you are so inclined, you can become a founding member over there and join in on the chat room, on the Crusader Stadium chat room. A lot of great conversation going on over there, and very interesting things being dropped there. Also, you can check us out on Rumble and hang out with the majority of folks who are watching the program over there too. And we'll all talk and discuss all kinds of things. There are people in the people who will remain unnamed because they don't sponsor the show, so we're not going to talk about them or their shows. So I'm not going to mention Wansa Prune and his the Battle for Freedom show that pops on every morning. I'm not going to mention that because he doesn't pay me. And all the other shows on there are also good to listen to. The Daily Mojo with Brad Staggs too. You dropped me off here. Hold on just a second. Okay, let me do this. Brian sent me the video on Facebook. If you go to Facebook, it now has it shows you that there's a graphic content. The video may contain violent or graphic content. And the violent and graphic content, I'm assuming, is because the whale that we showed the picture or the video of the whale knocking the boat over. I think. I don't know of any other graphic or violent content that we've put on the show or talked about on the show. It was
not that I know of.
Yeah, it was blocked way before we were talking about the boxing stuff and all that.
Right.
So I don't think it was that. Brian dipped out on us here. He'll be back in just a minute. But the show must go on. We still have to talk about some stuff here. It was brought up in the chat right before the end of the last hour that said we were talking about dress and tattoos and piercings and all that stuff. It's to me, I genuinely don't understand why that is now still a thing. We were at a professional business just recently. And then while we were at the professional business, this guy had, short sleeve polo shirt on. He dressed business casual for his job, which is another thing. But he had sleeves, and so he had tats all down both of his arms. I had no problem with that. What I found, what I noted was 10 years ago, that would have been unacceptable. And as I mentioned, one of my first jobs, if you were a male and you had your ear pierced or any kind of piercing, I don't think you were allowed to have your nose pierced or your eyebrow pierced. You weren't allowed to wear those, but I can't remember exactly, but you had to put a Band-Aid. I think you could have your eye pierced because they had to put a Band-Aid. I saw girls and guys both with Band-Aids over that on your ears if you were a guy. And now piercings are acceptable. Tattoos are acceptable. Shorts at work are acceptable. Flip-flops are acceptable in churches. I don't see, I look at that and I wonder, why is that such a problem for people? Watson commented in the Rumble chat. It says it's a style. So you are not bothered. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. That was, he said the environments are changing standards to create, the environments are changing standards to create a more homely environment. In the end, it's a farce. Now, I don't know exactly what he means by that. But if we are to hold the Bible as our standard, and that's what we're supposed to talk about, that's what we're supposed to base all these decisions. Where is the standard in the Bible about what a person can wear outside of you're supposed to have modesty? Like if a girl comes into a professional environment, she's wearing a thong bikini, depending on where she works, unless she works at the thong bikini store, it's inappropriate. If you're in a professional environment and, you're wearing something that's revealing or immodest, then you
Mhm.
should be doing that. That's the standard we have on the scriptures. And
Right.
when it talks about a man not wearing what a woman wears, that's kind of one of those passages that is a little elusive. We don't fully understand what the text means, because back in the day, the differences between men and women's garbs were very small. Men still wore the long shawls that they could tie up into their groin area so that they could run, or they could lift up so they could run or move faster. Now what we've done is we've anachronistically applied that, and this happened a lot during the Wesleyan holiness movements, whereby saying, well, women can't wear what is associated with men, therefore pants are associated with men, therefore women can't wear pants. And that was an improper application of the scripture. That was taking something that we have now, that we have deemed as men's only in our culture, and then applied that to the Bible back then. You can't do
Okay.
that.
So my application, when I'm saying I am going to judge you based on that, what is, like I said, first of all, what is your position require, right?
Mhm.
Like, and if if you are coming into a place of worship, if you are entering an arena in which the focus is supposed to be on something other than you, and you wait, I'm not saying this right. I need to keep it focused on work, because otherwise there's debatability. Okay, so um, let's say that you are a man, and you want to come to work wearing makeup and women's clothing. My application of the standard to you is the same as any woman who comes to work wearing women's clothing. You're not allowed to wear shorts, because this is not a casual environment. You're not allowed to wear flip flops, because if you have to run in a fire or an emergency situation, you are now a liability, and my work comp is paying for you. You are not allowed to be covered with visible tattoos, because you're in a position of attempting to sell a product that you represent. You are not the product. So you don't get to make all the choices on how you represent my product, which I'm hiring you to represent.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and it applies both ways. If you're a man and you want to dress as a woman, and you are coming to work, and you look presentable, your makeup doesn't look like a clown, you're not obviously walking around making your sexuality or your pronoun choices or your personal choices the focus of where you're at my place of employment, where I'm paying you to do a job that's not your job, I don't want you there. But if you are coming in and you are as presentable as everyone else, you are employing the same method of training, you are focused on the same goals of the company, the same culture, the same hospitality, the same treating everyone equal, and the same level of presentation in your personal appearance, then I have no issue with you. No issue with you. But if your statement and your whole you is about the fact that you're a man that wears women's clothing, I'm likely going to feed off of that and understand that that's going to cause a problem for the product I'm hiring you to represent.
Oh, yeah,
Period.
absolutely. Yeah, each would have those particular. I understand totally that each of those products, and then the type of environment would control a lot of that. You're
Right.
not going to be as you're not going to be as strict if you're working at McDonald's or the Goodwill,
Right.
as you would be if you're working at, even some place like I don't know. I'm just trying to think of stores in the mall that we have here. We have like two stores left: Sears or Lazarus.
Right.
They're going to have different standards, because there's a particular image that they're trying to portray. And I
Right.
totally get that. Some
Right.
businesses don't focus on that. There's an imbalance, however, when we want to apply our standards, what we think is proper dress or proper hairstyle, or flip flops or shoes or shorts or pants or t-shirts or polos, whatever. When we apply that to people and say, well, you're not professional because you don't wear this, there's nowhere that says that. That's a cultural
No, you can't do that. But I also want to be able to say, outside of the, let's say I'm outside of the professional environment and now it's just my personal environment, but my choice is that in my circle of trust or in my immediate area, arena, who I choose to associate with and what standards I apply to that, I won't be judged for. I don't care. I don't care what people think. And more people, I mean, and that's not to say that I'm right about what my choices are. It's just to say that I don't care. I'm not going to make my decisions based on what other people think of it. And
Well,
and
again, I think it's
unfortunately, everybody should be allowed to do that. And then people are going to make bad choices, just like people are going to say stupid stuff, and everybody has to be able to say what they want, including me.
I think it's where the church went awry, Aaron, like you were talking about with the Wesleyan tradition, is that they ostracized people for external traits. They ostracized people for what they were wearing, what they weren't wearing, how they were cutting their hair, how they weren't cutting their hair, whether they wore jewelry or makeup, whether they didn't wear jewelry or makeup. These are not spiritual conditions. And as I had one man explain to me, no, we can't mark it as spiritual, but if you want to be like us or with us, you have to be like us. So I think that the biggest issue that I take with all of this is when you tell me that my standards are not your standards, but I have to accept your standards, you don't have to accept my standards. If I have a business and I have, and let's say I have a business, something simple. I know this is an example. There was a funeral home in Northern Kentucky that wouldn't hire someone because they did not look presentable in their environment. Usually people coming in are either grieving or whatever. This person had a very different look on the outside, tattoo sleeves all the way down both arms. They had tattoos on their face. They had piercings all over their face. They had spiky hair that they normally wore in different colors. The person decided this is not the presentation we want when you have a grieving family coming in looking for our services. They got upset with that. Well, the argument is very simple. It's my business. I don't want you presenting yourself as a representative of my business, because that's not what I want to represent. It doesn't make one right and one wrong. It just says, I don't want that as my representation.
And the reason we even get judged for it is because legally we've replaced how those standards are held with
Right.
with the Bible by taking them from the government or the local culture or and so then your standards are lowered, and now those of us who want to preserve whatever standards it was that we had are looked at as the ones that have the problem. And
Exactly.
I'm just done with it.
So that kind of, you mentioned something there, Erica, about the people and their pronouns, and they're making it about themselves, et cetera. There are a lot of organizations and businesses, especially colleges, that are dropping DEI programs. There's an article that's here on CNN of all places. DEI programs in universities are being cut across the country. What does this mean for higher education? It goes on in the article to say that there was a new college of Florida that is dropping their board of trustees, is dissolving the the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office. This is, the situation at New College, which also did not renew the contract of its only U.S. history professor last month. Is it unique? Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill banning public colleges and universities from spending money on diversity, equity, and inclusion in May. And similar moves are happening across the country. And all fascist Republicans said, yay. Yay. More than a dozen state legislatures have introduced or passed bills reining in DEI programs. Yay, we love government when it does what we want it to do. And claiming the offices eat up valuable financial resources with little impact. Multiple states like North Carolina and South Carolina have introduced bills to track college DEI spending. In Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin banned the teaching of inherently divisive concepts because you can't have divisive concepts being taught in schools. Yay, government. Yay, in public schools, and has spoken out against equity initiatives throughout his time in office. In Ohio, a controversial bill that would, among other things, abolish diversity training requirements at public colleges is also steadily moving through the state's legislative system. Even as the academic year draws to a close, these fights against diversity, equity, and inclusion are set to continue. Some of the future of public higher education is on the line. And conservatives, it says here, so part of this is what this says. This is not what I say. Conservatives argue that DEI is about indoctrination. It says conservative lawmakers have for years claimed DEI efforts are a form of indoctrination. In 2020, then President Donald Trump called racial sensitivity trainings anti-American propaganda and issued an executive order banning such trainings for federal agencies, a move watchdogs noted as pre-election overture to his base. He issued an executive order banning such trainings for federal agencies. Now that's acceptable because even though those federal agencies are unconstitutional in themselves, and if you're going to ban something, just ban the agency, just eliminate it, and that way you won't have any worry or concern about DEI training or them teaching anything that's racially divisive or them publishing anything about pronouns. Just abolish those portions of the government, and then you don't have that problem anymore. But anyway, many DEI initiatives have been credited as beneficial. Studies have shown that college students, this is what CNN says, exposed to more diversity have greater levels of cultural awareness and political participation. Meanwhile, scholars credit DEI policies and programs as one way to combat inequality and encouraging multiculturalism and providing resources for people of different backgrounds. I think it's really interesting because not only are these universities, I don't know if the universities, obviously this happened in Florida, so it's probably along the initiative of what Governor DeSantis said. But we covered on a show a couple of weeks ago, multiple companies, in fact, were dropping their diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings. I believe it was here. It was John Deere was one of them. I know that. John Deere. John Deere turns its back on wokeness, rejects DEI policies, and then also Microsoft fires their DEI team, becoming the latest company to ditch with their woke policy. And all of this, honestly, in a private business, we're going to deal with that first. In a private business, I said this a few weeks ago, you're hiring based on the content of their character, by their talents, by their skills, by their abilities, all of the other character, all the other building blocks of good character or a good employee, other than the fact that they're black, white, Hispanic, or that you have a quota to reach.
Right.
Now, back in the 60s, when they had when they were pushing for why is it slipping? Affirmative action. I understand that there was a time, of course, it was government. I disagree with the government legislation for that. Their reasoning was behind it was people are not going to hire a black guy. They're not going to hire a black man to do a job that they think a white man could do better. So the government said, well, you have to have certain quotas, and their purpose of doing that. And again, I'm just looking at this on a surface level, not agreeing with the government doing it, but the purpose of doing that was, you have to have this many black folks. So you have to have a quota of certain amounts of persons of color that you hire. And the reasoning was you have to see that this black person can work just as hard as a white person, that there's no distinction between the character of a black person and the character of a white person. You know, that was the reason they were pushing affirmative action. And had that not been done, I don't think we would have had the incursion of black Americans working in jobs like you see now, because people would never have hired them. They would have said, you're black, I'm not hiring you. But they were forced to. So it's like, oh, well, now we see the guy working next to me, whatever color he is, works just as hard. He's got a family to take care of. He has characters. He's a good man. So it is a making somebody, again, I don't agree with the government doing it, but in the end result was making people hire them because they weren't going to hire them in the first place. So now what we're looking at is this diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. And this involves a larger scope of things. And I'm not saying it's not indoctrination. I really wish I could look into this more and have a more educated opinion on it specifically. However, a lot of these companies are dropping it, be it for money, be it for how divisive it is. I mean, I don't understand why a company has to support every single pet project that somebody does. Why do they need to have all of their money and support and their logos all over pride parades? If a person wants to go to a pride parade on their own time, go to a pride parade.
Well, Aaron, I think that gets back to the issue we just talked about a minute ago about the standards. I don't have to accept your standards, but you have to accept mine. And I think that's where I think that's where companies. I think that's where DEI. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff that's all as we talked about at the beginning of the show, very narcissistic. You don't have a right to have a standard, but you have to accept mine, and that seems to be the overall. I think the overall societal look is, you're a bad person if you're a Christian because you hate my standard, but you can't have your standard because I have my standard, and my standard trumps yours. You know, that's the kind of that's I think that's the battle that we're in right now as a society. Is my standard trumps yours, and it always will, and so you can't have your standard. And I'm sorry, but the church did that too. When we talk about the Holiness Wesleyan movement, we were guilty of that very thing, right? You come in pants and you're a woman, we will tell you to leave. You cut your hair or you wear makeup, we will tell you to leave. Again, not a loving attitude, I don't think it was a biblical attitude, but I think we kind of started that, or at least amplified it.
Well, there you go. So we have companies that are dropping because of that. Some folks saying that companies are risking losing customers as they move away from DEI. I think there are a lot of companies. It's just purely anecdotal. Are risking losing customers if they continue with the DEI. And
Absolutely.
I also get this. I get this annoyance about certain things. One of my Bree lately has been asking me what my pet peeves are. Well, since I got out of the hospital, I've had this, this change. I'm trying not to talk about the things that annoy me. Of course, that's what the show's been about today, the things that annoy us. But one of my pet peeves is when somebody says, I called the bank today. I got some foreigner that in another country. So I don't want to speak to nobody that has an accent. I mean, seriously, can you be any dumber? Can you be any dumber than to complain about something like that? That's one of my biggest pet peeves, complaining because somebody has a foreign accent on the phone. All right. You call the bank or you call a company and it's like, look, you piss and moan about the price of things. So companies do what they can to eliminate prices, of course, or to reduce prices. So they outsource jobs and then you get pissed because they're outsourcing a job. I
You
think
can call Alabama and have a problem understanding the person on the phone.
and I bring that up because I compare that with, that company, they went to a pride event or they supported this. Like, seriously, big whoop. You need gas. If you don't like it, find a company that sells coffee or bread or the products that you like that doesn't do that. Good luck doing it because so many companies have it. It annoys me that we just can't get along and just stop complaining about absolutely everything that happens around us as if we have some right to not be offended. Christians are snowflakes, and we all deserve a gold medal in selective outrage. We'll be back right after these messages from our non-sponsors here on The Breakdown. All the sponsors that support us after this first hour and a half are going to be playing during this break. Tell me if you recognize any of them. None of them have DEI. None of them have outsourced customer service reps either. I guarantee you that. Keep it locked in right here on The Breakdown. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just, and I don't think I'm on a hot mic over on the Crusade channel or not. I'm sorry if I am. Maybe I'm just growing increasingly annoyed at how annoyed other people get. I mean, seriously, it seems like there's so much complaining about stuff. I'm just,
So you're annoyed that people are annoyed.
I am. I'm like, what does it matter? What does it matter that they did something the Olympics you didn't like? Everybody says, well, I don't watch the Olympics no ways. Well, then why are you complaining? Why are
I know.
It's an emotion.
You know what? And I've lost it too. Like I lost it on one of Kate's friends one of my daughter's 19-year-old friends, I lost it on her because she was talking about abortion. And she's not my child. So I am not getting involved. I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting involved. And then I'm riding in the car and my daughter's driving and she's in the car and the music that they're listening to has N-word this, N-word that, rap this, rap that, like a word of like all kinds of things that you would never be okay with saying and especially if you're a woman. What they were talking about is how there's no way that you should accept that. And I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, so I'm can I ask a question? And my daughter's like, oh no, here it comes. I know. It's like, I just want to know how you're okay with this murder of
Yeah.
innocent children, but you have no problem with all of this.
Welcome back to the Breakdown, everybody. Thanks for staying with us during that break. We were just I was ranting during the break about my annoyance over the annoyance of other people. And there's so much going on in this world right now. We complain about everything as if Christians there are Christian snowflakes that think that the Olympics have to be tailored to not be offensive to them. There have been you have Donald Trump as the man you're supporting as a president, who is a crass a-hole.
And that's okay. That's okay.
It's okay because
That's okay.
because the storm's coming. The storm is coming.
No. I mean,
pedophiles around the entire world.
No, I mean, that's okay. If you want to support Donald Trump, who's an a-hole, if that's your choice, that's where you want to go, that's fine. But you don't get to do that and then turn around and be mad about the Olympics. Like,
I disagree.
up.
I can
Shut
have
up.
any opinion I want.
You don't have the right to not be offended in
Why
any
not? No,
situation.
I didn't say I have the right not to be offended, but don't get mad because I'm offended.
Hey, well,
don't let my offense offend you that I'm offended.
What I'm gonna point out the hypocrisy. That's what I think needs to be done. I'm going to point out the hypocrisy. I'm going to point out the hypocrisy of folks that look at me and they talk about traditional American values. They talk about the nuclear family. They talk about going to church. They talk about holding up a biblical standard. And then they have a philandering, loudmouth, a belligerent person as their candidate of choice and act like he is the Messiah. And we're talking about Donald Trump. That to me is hypocritical. People that claim that they have received the grace and mercy of God, yet have zero grace and mercy for other people. As if if a Christian were not allowed to do so, they would not be as corrupt as someone else. You're not different because you chose to be different, because you're a better person. You're different because of the grace of God. And if that person, and like that old saying is there, but for the grace of God go I, if that person is you, had it not been for the grace of God, where are you to step up and say, I'm better than them? They have to uphold my standard. You have zero leg to stand on to tell somebody else that they have to act like you when you're not the reason you're doing it. It's the grace and mercy of God. And there is a woeful lack of grace. There is a woeful lack of mercy that I see from Christians towards anybody outside of their ilk. And I think a lot of it has become political. I went back, I removed all of the shows up until February 17th. I removed all of my past shows because I sounded like an angry, bitter Christian. And the day that our house burned down, I was blasting The Chosen, I was blasting a local church, and I was blasting the He Gets Us campaign. And I go back and I listen to that, and I'm like, my gosh, I sound like an angry jerk when I did all that stuff. And I removed those shows because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed because here I am claiming to have the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ that has been shown to me, an unworthy piece of dog crap, worse than that, right? And Now I am treating other people horribly because I received God's grace and they haven't yet. To me, that is hypocritical. And I am the biggest hypocrite of all because I do it and I find myself doing. I get annoyed that other people are annoyed. Well, dude, you're doing the same thing. So I look at all of this stuff that's going on and I'm like, how can we cut through the noise and not add to the noise? How can we be clear and choose joy and show the love of Christ in our lives without being defined by what makes us so angry? It's as if we have this itch of outrage and we have to scratch it. And whatever comes up, if it's a radio show, a TV show, a news broadcast, a candidate, an Olympic ceremony, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's the government juice, all of that. If we just have to find something and then we just start scratching, like we have chicken pox of outrage. And we start scratching. We're like, oh, it feels so good. I'm so outraged. I'm so angry. I'm so holy when I'm outraged. No, you're just adding to the noise.
Okay, I'm gonna step up and say something here that you're probably gonna get mad at me for, but we're gonna say it anyways. There is something to be said for a person who has a certain amount of outrage. Even Christ got upset with the religious people, and there was a scene where he got into the church and he was turning over tables because they weren't living or doing the things that he had told them to do. I think when it's all said and done, I think that there is a need for a certain kind of outrage. Now, it's not hatred to call sin sin. It's an educational thing, I think. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Aaron's rolling his eyes.
I never said that it was hateful to do that. The point has just flown so far over your head. It's like an airplane at 35,000 feet. That's not the point. I'm not saying don't call out sin. People in the chat are saying that too. A person in the chat is saying that too. I'm not saying don't call out sin. I'm not saying don't preach truth. I'm saying don't be a douchebag when you do it. I don't know how many times I've said that.
Okay.
I mean, like don't be a douche.
In the very simplest of terms, right? Aaron is right. I'm
I don't know.
sorry.
Should I be
Can somebody just write that down
simplest
somewhere
terms?
because it might be the only time I ever say it. But I'll take it for you and take it because the Bible is not my background. So non-biblically speaking, what we're talking about is holding to your truths, right? Being authentic when you are engaging with people without having to be transparent. You don't have to say every ridiculously outraging thing that comes into your head in order to communicate with somebody that you aren't necessarily being tolerant of. We're not calling out sin, but if somebody is most obviously, and I have righteous indignation towards them, right? Yes, that's fine. But if that's what's coming out of my mouth, in what way does a 2-year-old listen to you when you're yelling at them? They don't. They don't know any better. They're tuning you out. They're going to cry louder than you. They're going to yell louder than you. And you already know that that's the only message that's going to get picked up and actually broadcast publicly in the bull media that we have out there right now.
Right.
Okay? So if all you're coming out with is you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're not going to get anyone to listen to you at all.
Exactly. And I pop up here, Doc Thompson's rules to live by. Doc Thompson, the dude who started Mojo 5-0, right? Number one rule of Doc Thompson: don't be a jerk. Now that doesn't mean you don't call out things that are improper. That doesn't mean you don't stand up for women's rights. It doesn't mean that you don't say that abortion is wrong. It doesn't mean you don't say that there's no sin and that people are sinning. It's not that. There is a difference in the way that we communicate with people, and we are not doing it well.
Right.
Okay,
And you don't have to lower the bar in order to increase the flock.
All right, so
That's
let
not how
me
you
ask.
that's not how you do it.
I'm putting the target on myself for a minute. So, Aaron, you've seen my post. You've seen my post.
I don't want to go through and criticize your posts or tell you that they're right or wrong or anything like that. I'm not going to do that. That's not what this is about.
Well, so my question is, do you think that okay, if you don't want to criticize my post, I guess my next question is, it seems to me like, and I could be wrong about this, but it seems to me like the very fact that I mentioned something about this boxer, or the fact that I mentioned something about the Last Supper, that's outrage, and therefore I am not. Somehow I am being less of a understanding, caring, loving person for mentioning it. I don't want to go there, but I don't know. I don't know how to ask the right question without trying. I'm not really trying to argue. I'm asking a question. How do we mention our discontent with the way things are without crossing that line of being the MAGA Republican that you're preaching against here?
If you what's the old adage? If you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one that gets hit. People have asked me that. They're like, can you provide an example of the hatred that you see, what you think is hate? No, I'm not going to fill my social media or my show with pictures of examples of what people. I'm not going to perpetuate the thing that I think is hateful and wrong. Much like the pictures that I said, people are posting these pictures of the Olympic opening ceremony. If that is so offensive and so blasphemous, don't continually reshare it. Okay. I'm simply telling people, and Bryan, if you take this as a personal affront against you, I don't.
No, I'm not. I'm asking. I'm legitimately asking a question. I'm not trying to be.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't spend that kind of time where I go through and I dissect everybody's Facebook pages. And if somebody has an opinion, I think we were pretty respectful last hour when we were talking about other people's opinions. I'm not a biologist. I don't know what this person is in the Olympics. And since I don't know what this person is in the Olympics, my opinions go to a certain point and they stop. I can't go beyond that because I'm not a biologist. I don't know how much levels of testosterone should be or shouldn't be present in a person's body for them to perform or compete in a women's sport versus a man's sport. And the only reason that 99% of people would know that answer is because they've Googled it in the past week and they now present themselves as an expert on it. Okay. I'm speaking broadly and generically at all of this stuff. And I'm trying to address the overall assault of anger that comes from the church, quoting fingers, or Christians, quoting fingers, that will refuse. I mean, okay. Was this the Feast of Dionysus at the Olympics last week? I don't know. There are posts that say that it wasn't. There are posts that say that the woman that performed it said it was exactly an affront, or that it was the Last Supper. And then there are posts who say, no, this is the thing of Dionysus. But I did see somebody posted up the blasphemous picture. They claim was blasphemous. They posted it up and they said, this is blasphemous, blah, blah, blah. And somebody commented, well, this was actually the Feast of Dionysus. And the person said, well, it doesn't matter. It was still blasphemous anyway. So even faced with facts, you still refuse to step down off of your pedestal, your soapbox, and look at what is actually being produced, because you just care about being mad. You just care about being outraged. And it's the same on the left. The left are not biologists. They're not Greek mythology experts, yet they present themselves as being such because it's a confirmation bias. I have an idea in my mind, so I'm going to search until I find somebody that has any kind of credibility that agrees with my confirmation bias, that agrees with what I have to say. And that's where my research stops, and this becomes my standard of my argument, right? That's not the way that's not the way we're supposed to have conversations and discuss or even debate. You don't stop at the point where you find somebody who agrees with you.
Well, and that also doesn't mean that just because you don't find anyone that agrees with you doesn't mean you're wrong.
Right. No, I
Right? Like, you may do all your research and you still may be like, no, I absolutely know that I'm right here. And because people are going to come to that decision. You can't expect you from everyone else.
Well, and I
I
think the other
said
thing
that. Stop
you did,
expecting you from other people,
I
okay?
I like
Because
that comment.
that's not going to work. That's not how you do it, right? Like you're not if you're expecting that, that is not how God created us. That is not how it works. If it was, there would be no debate. There would be no reason to have a higher spiritual knowledge or connection or have God in your heart because we'd all be the same and it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't even have to talk about it, right?
To to
And
to
I'm not saying, there's comments in the chat that there's this is I don't understand why not yelling or because I'm not saying I literally said you have to be able to have righteous indignation. That is very fierce anger. That's how I mean that, right? You have to be allowed to have that, but also be emotionally intelligent enough to say, if I go in here with all this anger, what I'm going to come out with is not what I need. You're not going to get that. And that goes along with saying, and I've said before on this show, I think that and I'm only speaking from my perspective, my faith, my experience in the Catholic Church. I wish that the priests were up there talking about what the results should be on abortion, talking about I wish we had more fiery sermons and less acceptance and less of tolerance of the lacks of the rules and what we expect and what our standards are. I wish we had more of that, right? I'm not talking about fire and brimstone. I'm talking about actual, real adherence to values and standards and taking back the position that the leaders of your faith used to have. I don't know. I don't know how we're supposed to be like, that's it. It's my way or the highway. And I'm telling you, as a private employer, I use that. We use that. But you are absolutely correct that the second I started putting in job openings, no vaccination required. The people that started applying for my jobs, the quality of the person that applied went up. The level of employer of team members that I was able to bring on skyrocketed.
Yeah.
There was no anger. There was no discussion of that, right? But when you adhere to standards without anger, you're still going to get results. And those results foster a culture that even if you bring in somebody who may not be all in or may not be all aboard, the results of what you're doing are the results are driven by performance, and they see that. People say things to us like, "I didn't know this type of kindness happened at work. I never knew that team could be like this. I don't know why anyone ever leaves this company," right? Well, that would be the same for your church or for your faith or for your book club if you actually learned how to communicate instead of screaming.
And to Aaron's point, real quick, Aaron, when you were talking about studying, I think it's important that if I have an opinion, that I do study to look for the information. And I would have never thought to study, about this person in this Olympic event because it was never on my radar until it was. So then you start researching it to find out, is he really a man, or is he a female, or do they not know? And so you start looking. I am not a genetics major, but the research shows what it shows, and the articles that have confirmed what it shows. So I don't think it's wrong to study when something gets on your radar. I don't think that you're just trying to confirm your bias. I think you should have some responsibility. I think it was you years ago that got on me about posting stuff on Facebook that I hadn't looked into, and that I forget what it was, but actually I do remember what it was. There was a coin where they were not going to put on a God we trust on it, like they do on the rest of our currency. And you told me, you said that was fake, and I had a bunch of people that were all outraged on Facebook. This was years and years and years ago. And you're right, it was fake. I probably should have thought twice about looking at what the actual story was. There's been a lot of stories that have caught my attention that were clickbait that I didn't study, and then you throw it out on Facebook, and people are like, "Yeah, but that's a fake. That's a spoof. That's AI generated, whatever." So I didn't start researching this person until I did start researching this person. I don't think there's any bias there. I want to know if I'm putting this out there and I say this is disgusting and that this should never happen. I want to know I have a reason for it.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be done. I mean, and like the whole thing started. Now, I mean, just to clarify, a man competing in a woman's sport should not be allowed. I do not think so. I just like we mentioned earlier, you have different weights, different weight classifications, et cetera, different I don't want to say standards, but you have different classifications in sports where
Right.
even same sex sports where people perform in a specific way. A man in a ring with a woman getting blasted in the face, that is wrong. You know, and trying to explain to the world, just because you wear a bra and you stuff your bra, or just because you tuck, doesn't make you a woman. That does not make you a woman. So saying that and then getting into the ring and battling it out, that's wrong. That shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be done. And again, but when it comes to these things, these intricacies, this is one of those really rare cases where it's like, oh, well, we don't really know what she was. Is it androgenism? Is it was she born with gender dysphoria, like real gender dysphoria, as the medical documents have explained? Or was this a decision later on for her to transition, like the swimmer, like the male swimmer? That shouldn't be allowed, you know, because he was a male up until a certain point, and he said that he was something else. That's improper, right? So I do want to address really quick. Somebody over in the Crusader Stadium chat room. We're live on the Crusade channel, live radio the way it should be. We're also live over on Rumble, and we are live on Facebook. So you can join us there in the conversation here. You are correct, Space Hippie. Transgender is not the same as a genetic defect. Absolutely, and that I hope I was clear when I was saying that. Because I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Philip over in the Crusader Stadium chat room said, so the lunatics on the left can force perversion into the public square, and we are hypocrites if we call them out on it because our party's candidate was a philanderer. No, I want to clarify that. What I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to do the a two Coke fallacy. What I'm trying to say is, I think the standards that we have for ourselves are misrepresented when we apply those standards to other people. We demand that the Olympics only allow a certain performance that respects the Christian religion. Yet in our hypocrisy, we say, oh, well, we're going to support a candidate, and it could be any candidate. I've heard things about my candidate that I'm not very that I don't like. But when we tout a specific standard that we have for someone else, but then our standard is diminished for ourselves, that's hypocrisy. That's what I'm trying to point out. So I apologize, Philip, if I was unclear on that. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense.
It's not even political, right? Like that's not even a one-to-one correlation. What we actually started out saying was you can't be upset about the apparent blasphemy in the opening ceremony and not be outraged about a child rapist being allowed to compete or a man being allowed to beat a woman in the ring, right? That's what we're saying. We're not saying anything other than that. It's not about not being able to uphold our side of the story, or we're not saying the hypocrisy. I mean, you can say Donald Trump is the hypocrisy, but not everybody supports Donald Trump. So that's not a one-to-one correlation, right?
Correct.
So, right? I mean,
so
yeah, I just mean like that's definitely not the direct hypocritical correlation we were trying to make. It obviously goes there because everything is so politically charged right now, and that's where it all ends up, right?
Yeah.
I get that, but I don't think that was our direct correlation. It was hypocrisy, but it wasn't political candidate to transgender athlete. That
Well, and
wasn't.
I think it's important also and I just had this message come to me on a private chat, but it says it's not antithetical to evangelize, and I agree with that as well. I think that as a Christian, I have a standard, and that standard is for me to evangelize the world, right? It is for me to tell the world this is God's standard, not mine. This is so I don't think that there's anything wrong with sharing your standard, right? I don't look at somebody with hatred who is not like me, right? But if it crosses the line of what does the scripture say, then I have issues with that.
So now when I'm not sure I understand exactly when they say that's not antithetical to evangelize. I don't understand why where that plays in. I don't understand why I said that we're not supposed to. Was I unclear on that? Just to clarify? I don't think it's wrong to evangelize. But I can show you videos of street preachers that do an amazing job of sharing the gospel, and I can show you videos of street preachers who I wish would crawl under a rock and never speak about Jesus again. I mean, there are differences. I mean, like between the proper way to preach the gospel and the improper way to preach the gospel.
I agree. I think that there are.
So I'm not sure if I communicated that. I apologize. I don't think that it's improper to preach the gospel at all. I think that's necessary. It is absolutely necessary. It is commanded in Scripture to preach the gospel. I believe that. But I mean, I'm glad that people are responding, because this gives us an opportunity. It gives me the opportunity to explain what it is that I'm trying to say, because it is a talk show, right? That's what we do. We talk here. So I'm not.
We talk and we explain.
Yeah, we talk. We break things down. You know, it's like mansplaining. Only we have a woman, so it's not mansplaining.
Exactly.
Right? Because Erica, just so you know, mansplaining is a combination of the word of man and explaining. It's
explaining.
Oh, wow.
It's a Greek term. There's no Latin involved here.
Dionysus. Actually,
I was going to say it has to do with Dionysus, right?
Oh my God!
I can't even pronounce his name right. I keep saying Dionysius, and I think it's Dionysus, right? I don't
know. I'm not Greek. I could care less.
It's Dionysus, but
I just started
matter.
my master's program. I haven't taken Greek and Hebrew yet, so give me a minute.
Right?
I haven't reached that point in my education yet.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't got that far. I'll let you know.
We have.
I'll get back to you in about 4 to 5 years when I get there.
Right.
We have Gino Martinez in the chat room of the Crusader Stadium chat room. Says so. If the research and science says the facts are that gender dysmorphia isn't a mental illness, are we required to believe that? That's no. I'm not saying that all science is accurate and all science is correct either.
Well, also, that's not exactly a true statement.
Right.
It was never scientifically proven that gender dysphoria was not a mental disorder. It was just the classification of it was changed during a time of economic restructuring, where they wanted to not have to give so much money to the mental hospitals, and decided to change classifications of certain mental illnesses in order to free up beds. And I'm not joking. You can look that up. That's how that all changed.
There you go.
Interesting.
And I bet she didn't research that until she did.
and I'm not saying don't research. I am saying that my camera has frozen up yet again. I'm not saying don't research. What I'm saying is, when you research, don't stop at the first thing. Like if you want to, the whole thing that happened with Donald Trump this past week when he was with the black journalists. We'll talk. Do y'all have time for a little bit of overdrive today?
I do, especially about that topic. That's good stuff.
Oh, I probably can't actually. I'm still sort of in. Brian's so sad I'm not going to be here.
I am very sad. We haven't done an overdrive in like weeks.
Okay, I am really sorry. I'm sort of in the continuing care mode still over here.
Oh,
so
okay, I'm sorry.
So here's the deal. So when Donald Trump says something, you don't go to Fox News to prove that it's right. You know, I mean, it's honestly that's what I'm trying to say. You don't find the research that supports your view and stop there. But anyway, all right, folks. Thanks for everybody for listening to the show. That's it for this week. Head on over to aaronbarker.substack.com, thebeardedpastor.substack.com as well. And until next time, make Christ supremely valuable. You know, I bet if we get Erica talking, she'll hang out for about 10 minutes.
I don't know. That's crazy.
That just means he's trying to get. That's a bait right there. That's a
That
bait.
was a bait.
That was
Yes, that was a bait.
That was
Yes.
baiting. But if Bryan does it in 3 to 4 years when he graduates high school, not high school, but
Wow.
master's. Let me go ahead and I'm going to reload here real quick, folks, and then you all can talk for just a second. I'll be right back.
So yeah.
Brian, I'm sorry. I'm just giving you a hard time with the master pastor comment.
Oh no, you don't bother me. I think it's. I actually had someone ask me, "Why are you going for your master's degree? You're so old."
Who said that?
Well, I'm not going to go there.
Oh my God, that's too funny. I mean, we need Deb to come up for a hashtag for you for master pastor for sure.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, Deb, you hear that? You got to go. You go something about master bearded pastor or master. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's like, "Oh dear God, you're going to get your master's." He said, "I've never seen a man that needed a 2-sided business card."
You just need a new setup. You won't need 2 sides to the business card. You'll just need a new setup.
Well,
I
they
mean-
were, and we were talking about the fact that I was going to be, I told them, I said, wait till I get my doctorate, and they're like, why? And I'm like,
what?
because I can. So
Yeah, but
I
then you're
think I'm
just
gonna
like
go
a
forward.
lifetime student. Like, what do you do for a living? I go to school.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, but not professionally.
Well, I'm not professional either because I'm not paying for this. I'm going for scholarships, folks. I'm telling you,
Well, no, I know that, but you're like a professional student.
Master bearded pastor rocks. Go get them, Deb. Go get them. I love it.
Can you all hear me?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
we can.
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm definitely going to have to abbreviate that. Can we just call that the MBPR? Because I feel like Master Bearded Pastor Rocks is going to come out wrong so
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah. I can see where that could be a problem.
I don't know why it's not showing me here. Hold on just a second. Let me refresh this again. Let me see.
Because your camera's not on.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
Duh.
just try that first.
Have you tried to reboot, Aaron?
Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on?
Is the internet working? Is it on? Everything fine?
Oh my gosh.
All
We have
right.
too much fun here.
So I tell you, somebody in the Crusader Stadium chat room did say, "I'm glad the team ended laughing." I'm like, yeah, we always try to, but
Wait, I never get the sense that we're mad at each other. I'm always surprised when people are like, Erica and Brian were fighting. I'm like, wait, were we? Like, and now I have to go back and listen.
Sometimes I do get mad, and it's mainly at Brian, and I think
Yeah,
it's
but
because
not you
Brian-
do.
Sometimes during the show, I'm like, if I could punch through this camera, I would smack him right in the head.
We have a love-hate relationship. We have loved to hate each other for years, Erica. It's just kind of a thing.
Yeah, so that's sort of why I don't take. Maybe it's because I see it behind the scenes as well as when we're live, because that's just a thing.
So it's just a real thing. It's who
That's
we
just
are.
That's just how they communicate, right?
I think I do it to you. Admit it, Brian. I piss you off sometimes during the show.
Oh yes, you do. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
God, yes.
When he makes
Like
that
who
little
said
TV statement,
who
he's
was
like,
concerned about that? I will tell you, whoever that was saying there, if you're still here, right before the show, literally, Brian came in, or I came in to Brian saying, "So did you see that 3D graphic that I put up?" And Aaron literally goes, "Yeah, I saw it. I don't like it." And Brian's like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah, I saw it last week, and I told you I didn't like it." Right. So this is not like uncommon. This is how they communicate, right? And Brian comes back. Don't worry. Brian defends himself.
He does, and that's that's the thing that I like about this whole thing is that we can get mad, but honestly, you can't. But it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes I get annoyed, but sometimes I get annoyed at myself. Sometimes I get annoyed at the topics because I'm like, all right, this topic has been drilled into the ground. I'm done.
Do you know why I think I don't see that? And this is also for whoever asked that question. I don't see it because I usually, when I leave, then they talk about me behind my back. So if I make them angry, they have each other to vent to. I don't have to hear about it.
Oh man, there is a person, I will not mention his name, that likes to message Brian when he's mad at me and when I tick him off. but he has not the courage. He has not the intestinal fortitude to reach out to this juggernaut of logic and directly confront me with his concerns. That's if he's out there, if he's listening,
Juggernaut.
Have the guts to reach out to me. I would love to. Well, I mean, I don't know what else to do. I mean, I can go, hey man, can you please reach out to me? I'd love to talk to you. Or I can just say, dude, have the guts to reach out to me. Mano a mano.
Oh my gosh.
Man to man. The dude has a better beard than me, though. I will say that. He's got a better beard than I do.
He's got a better beard than most.
I don't know who most is, but all right. So so Bryan.
Okay, I'm gonna go before you guys get serious into talking.
No, what are you doing? You can't go. We're supposed to know. No.
Okay.
Do you really?
All
have
right, one story. Go.
Okay,
one story.
Here we go. All right. So this is the Donald Trump clip. Did you see this past week?
Nope,
I'm trying to buy time as I share this. Where did it go? Where's the Donald Trump? Here it is right here. This is the clip of Donald Trump at the Black Journalist meeting. And here is the question that was leveled against him. I got unmuted, Barker.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. I think it's a very nasty question. I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to...
Now, I will say this real quick. That clip was clipped. And when I say that, it was dubbed because there was a little portion of time that he did explain some things that he had done for the black population. So when she said, hey, do answer my question, when he said, I did answer your question, he actually did provide an answer there. Saying he didn't provide, I can't remember, but I don't think he provided like specifics of it.
He didn't give like actual statistics, but he said he was responsible for the largest increase of black or the largest decrease in black unemployment. Like black unemployment reached the lowest numbers in the history of recording black unemployment numbers while he was president. He gave some other like direct examples, not physical numbers, but they were true examples. And then when she asked him to repeat it or to answer the question, that's when he came out with the Abraham Lincoln line, which, by the way, I loved. That was great.
Serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me a
definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say
He's like, and now she says, you said this, and he's like, define that. Well,
Define that. Yeah.
I
What is
can't
that?
define it because you said it, so you should have to define it. What do you mean by that? Because you're the one that said it.
And all she can do is tell you what the letter D and E and I stand for.
Right.
And she's not actually telling you what it is. She didn't answer the question.
But I think the next step, and I think what would have been absolutely stellar for him to do was say, hey, by the way, I have a clip of Joe Biden saying the reason why he picked her
No.
was because of her DEI status.
That doesn't matter. He needs to stop all of that. You stop going to what I can show that Joe Biden did. Nobody cares. That man's brain is a stepped on mushroom in the wild right now. There is no way it matters what Joe Biden said or is doing. He's out. He's done. We haven't even seen him since that live video, which we can't even prove is live. He's gone. He's done. He's out of here. Okay. The issue now is not Joe Biden, and he needs to stop comparing himself to anybody on the other side. And he's got his own record, for crying out loud. He doesn't need to put up with any of this. And I think he's right. The amount of bravado that it takes, like some people were like, oh my God, I can't believe he said he was better than, the person who was responsible for the Black Voting Rights Act. If he wants to say he's the best since Abraham Lincoln, I'm pretty sure freeing the slaves was a bigger accomplishment than giving blacks the right to vote, because the blacks could have done that for themselves if they had any cojones. Anyway, sorry.
I think that with what she was saying was, he was like, well, I've done more for any president than any president since Abraham Lincoln. And she's like, well, since Abraham Lincoln, we had another president that said that they could vote. Well, what have you done? Now, there are a couple of things here. It says here a few things actually that evidently he did. I'm not, of course, a lot of people out there that believe that I'm a liberal plant, because I have such a massive audience that me being a liberal plant is actually going to influence the election. I'm flattered. Really, I am. By the way, Bryan, did you send my information to that person that is contacting you directly? Because I still haven't received a message.
My God.
I guess
All
he's
right,
probably
gentlemen, I have to go.
I have
Eric's
not
hanging out
sent directly to
Before
him.
people
Sorry.
start walking in, I will plan on the schedule for at least an hour of overdrive next week. Okay.
Yes.
That sounds great. I will also make sure that that's in my schedule. I can't really stay on that much longer either. I wanted to bring this up because I know, Bryan, you had some points, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about it. Erica, as always, thank you so much for joining us on the show. You've been fantastic as always. And
I will see y'all later. Have a
ya.
good week,
Bye.
everybody.
Peace. All right, so I'm going to play because you know what? Don't demand that I do that, Timmy. I won't play it because you demand that I play it.
Oh my gosh. You're going to be that guy?
I am. He's like, play the next part of the video. It's his favorite part. So here, let's play the next part. Let's play it.
No, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
Gosh, what a baby. I'm sorry. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. What a complete baby for him to be like, "Greg, you ask in a hostile tone, and you were late too. You were late, and then you were hostile. You didn't even say hi."
You didn't even say hi.
Stop being a baby.
And the pastor didn't even shake my hand.
Oh my goodness, yeah, but that there's no demand. I mean, the demand, but he did when I look at this, and here's what I think, and I've thought this for a long time. Okay, yes, she come at him at a hostile manner. He's in a place, he's in an environment where he has been accused of this. I've not seen another president have to answer this so much Can you say that you're against white supremacy? I am. I've said it. I've done it a dozen times. He has said those things. He said that he's against it. In a world that says if you say I'm not racist, that means you're racist. Now he has to answer and acquiesce to your demands to say he's not racist. It's like a catch-22.
Right.
But in this situation, I think it would have been much better if he would have just said, you know what, I appreciate your candor. I appreciate you asking that direct question. Let me explain here why I think that I have done, or what my statistics have shown that I've done for the black population in America. And then there's a website. It's called Trump Campaign Press Release. It's the American Presidency Project. And it lists multiple things. He signed the historic First Step Act, and that is 90% of those who have had their sentences reduced are Black Americans. The First Step Act shortens mandatory minimum sentence for nonviolent drug crimes. The law allows offenders sentenced under racially motivated mandatory minimums to petition for reevaluation. I think this is the one he worked with Kim Kardashian on. It said that President Trump launched the Ready to Work initiative, which helps released prisoners gain meaningful, gainful employment. President Trump has proposed the Second Step Act to partner with corporate America to create opportunities for former prisoners to rejoin society. Black Americans are seeing unprecedented levels of economic success, or they did under his presidency, with record low unemployment rates, more jobs, and higher incomes. I wonder, and he may have in that little clip mentioned some of this stuff, but I definitely think, and I know that people are probably going to get annoyed at me on this, but I definitely think that the tone in which he went back at her, he has to be the president. He has to be the one that is more controlled, the more one that is less offended at these situations, right? He can simply say, hey, look, yes, I have done these things for Black America. 1.4 million more Black Americans have found a job between President Trump's election and February 2020. Black poverty reached a historic low in 2019. I designated thousands of opportunity zones that are projected to spur $100 billion in private investment in minority communities. The Trump administration established a fund to deploy $1 billion in capital funding for minority-owned businesses through the Commerce Department. He called on Congress to pass choice legislation to expand education opportunities for all American children, especially those in the inner cities. There are so many things that he could have said in a more respectful manner, in a more presidential manner, than just saying, you attacked me and that was not very nice. You didn't even say hi. Very rude. And you work with ABC, and that is a fake news organization. Dude, just don't be a bitch.
And Aaron, I agree with everything you're saying there. But I do think that he said it in a very calm, cool, and collected manner. He didn't yell at her. He didn't scream at her. I think there's a difference in the way that even our press speaks to the dignitaries today than what they used to. Even whether you like Peter Doocy or not, the way that he talks to the press secretary, I think, is still very respectful, even though he calls her out on her blatant,
right,
her blatant issues. You look back at press interviews with presidents like Reagan and even Clinton and Bush. There was a certain level of dignity where even if you didn't agree with them, you still addressed them respectfully. And I'm gonna be honest with you. This woman came out of the gate extremely disrespectful. And we all know that if you disrespect the Trump, he's going to disrespect you right back.
Yeah.
Not that I agree with that. Not that I agree with that, and I don't think that it's right. And I think that it makes him look like an epic, like we said before the show. I think it makes him look like an epic jerk. And that's what a lot of people hold against him, is that he does resort to ad hominem attacks. I got no issues there. I know that that's what he's going to do, and I know that's how he's going to do it. But I still think that when it comes down to the policies, his policies are better than the other guy, or in this case, girl. And if I was listening to a couple of talk shows yesterday, and I'm going to tell you right now, one of the biggest things that I think we need to do as the right-leaning conservatives is we need to run on policy, not personality. And in policy, we're going to win every time. Personality, not so much, because great personalities on our side, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like Kamala at all. I think that she has shown over and over and over that I don't know what her true intelligence level is, but what she's put on display, she looks like a word salad, samurai. I mean, that's really what she looks like. She can't speak with any intelligence, or at least it doesn't appear that she can speak with any intelligence. But let's go back away from her personality. Her record stands on its own. Yes, she was made the border czar. Yes, that has been a colossal failure, right? We go back to her political career. We go back to her judicial career. There are all kinds of failings that are blatantly obvious. These are not a matter of opinions. These are not a matter of right wing versus left wing. This is her record and what she's running on. And again, if you don't agree with that, she was the vice president for the last 3.5, almost 4 years now. So guess what? That means she is now Biden's record is now her record, right? They wanted to lay that at the feet of Bush when he took over from Reagan. They wanted to lay that at the feet of anyone else that has been the incumbent, so to speak, anointed next successor or whatever. She's got his record, and his record sucks. Inflation sucks. The economy sucks. Our geopolitical standing in the world sucks. That's on her.
Yes, it is. And all right, folks, I think that's it for the show today for the Overdrive. I appreciate the extra time you gave us, Bryan. Remember, you can go over to aaronbarker.substack.com. You can like and subscribe to the show there. You can also go to thebeardedpastor.substack.com. That's Bryan's. That's Bryan's Substack, and you can follow him over there and subscribe there also. And then click on the Breakdown Outfitters link and make our stuff your crap. Buy all of our stuff and support us. You can also subscribe. If you go to the Substack, you can subscribe, as we do have already a founding member subscriber. And no, Watson, you can subscribe for free. You just put your email address in, and there's a free subscriber level, and then you will receive updates and emails. And and then that will send you, like, when I'm going to post the show, and it'll have audio and clips and then an outline of the show. You'll get that. If there's any other articles or clips that are posted through the week, you'll get those. If you are a paid subscriber, we will be in the next couple of months starting another show through the week that's going to be the three of us, kind of an unfiltered, unbarred type of, nothing different than what we do every Saturday. But that will be something that you can pay for as well. We do have a we do have a founding member right now, and you all will know him. Toby actually is part of he joined and became a founding member of the show there. Let me go ahead and pull this up real quick, because there are different levels. So, you can join the over 500 folks that have already subscribed over there. I'm trying to see what level that it's called if you subscribe to it. I believe it's a founder's level, and you can do a yearly subscription. It is a little bit more than a monthly subscription, but what it does is it gives us that additional boost so that we can continue to provide the lackluster and below par, subpar content that we produce every Saturday. So you can join over there. Please do so. Love you too, Space Hippie. Love everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. You all have a wonderful, fantastic weekend. God bless. And tomorrow night, I'm going to be rocking out at the Coral Reefers Jimmy Buffett Memorial Tour. Can't wait to be there. I've already looked at the show list. I cried when I looked at the set list. I cried at the set list. I'm probably going to bawl like a baby when I get there tomorrow night. This is the closest I'm going to get this side of eternity to see Jimmy Buffett perform.
Are they do they have an impersonator to do him, or are they just going to
it's the Coral Reefer Band minus Jimmy Buffett.
So who's going to do the vocals?
Mac McAnally does a lot of the vocals. There's another guy that sings with him, but mainly Mac McAnally is the one that does it.
Okay, gotcha.
All righty. Well, everybody have a great one. God bless, and make